Squid Game The Challenge is a Netflix reality show based on the actual show Squid Game that just finished up this week. It was actually pretty good, and I thought it was as faithful to the show as they could be. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about it and why I liked it, even though I'm not huge on reality TV. I'm not going to spoil anything other than very vaguely. I'm not going to get into who wins or who makes it through what rounds. I'll just talk about the games and how they kind of do it and the style. And I think it's worth checking out. So the way that it works is it's a reality show. Obviously, they don't kill anybody. They play the games just like the show. They play red light, green light. They do the cookie game. They do the glass bridge. The only real big difference, I understand why they did this, because if you know what the games are, then you can very easily rig the games in your favor. And some people simply won't have a chance. So any game that had a physical element to it was removed. So obviously the tug of war was replaced by Battleship. So this is like obviously more of a chance game, because if you know tug of war is coming, you can stack the teams up full of young, strong men and everybody else, and then nobody else will have a chance, obviously. So those kind of changes are made throughout the show. And then another component in the show is they have to kill people. You have the stuff where they turn out the lights and people are getting stabbed and it's just chaos. And as you would expect, they had to find ways to accommodate this. So every game that they replace this kind of thing with ends up being a game of chance. So that's the element of it that I get why they did it, because you want everybody on the show to have a chance to win. Like, you can't have it set to where only young, healthy people can win because they're in shape and can get through stuff. So they accommodate for this by having games of chance. These are things like rolling dice. They have a thing where everybody's blindfolded. The people who work the Squid Game will tap someone in the shoulder. They go put the box on someone's desk. If the person who gets the box on their desk guess right who gave it to them, that person is eliminated. And if they guess wrong, the person who got the box was eliminated. So they had this kind of stuff to balance that out. Because obviously, when you're playing 5, 6, 7 games, you're probably not going to get through 456 people in games of chance. It was really well done. They make them wear the outfits and they do like the announcements and they sleep in the bunks. All the stages and stuff look just like the show. Like the room that they sleep in looks just like it with the games on the walls. They have the colorful steps everywhere. Obviously, they do the marble game. It looks just like the show. The glass bridge looks a little bit different. I'm sure that's a legal thing. Obviously, the final game is different. I won't say what it is. So yeah, they do all these things to kind of counteract for it. My biggest issues with the show are issues that I have with every single reality TV show, which is why I don't really watch reality TV. It's just not my thing. The only reality TV show that I can remember getting into recently was Ink Master, and I'm going to blame that on my wife. So she would put it on and I would just watch in the background and I would kind of read, and then I'd look at the tattoos because they were pretty cool. But I'm not into all the drama. This show, for sure, you can tell there's a lot of stuff where they're prompting conversations. For instance, they reenacted the dinner scene at the very end when they're all in tuxes and they're getting the food, and there's 3 of them. And they do the thing where you can tell, like, they've been told, hey, why are you here? What do you want to do with the money? So then they can give their whole backstory and get into it and all that kind of stuff. That would be my biggest issue with the show, which is an issue in every single reality TV show ever, is like how much is scripted and how much is just these people doing their thing. And it's interesting because you end up with people that you fucking hate and you're rooting against. Some of them are likable. A lot of them are people who just are kind of treating it like a game show. One of the cool things they do is when they die, they do like an ink blot on their chest. Obviously it comes through their shirt, and they all have to play dead. So the people fall over and they just have to lay there until the challenge or whatever is done. So it feels just like the show. So there's a lot of nice little touches like that in there. The stuff that I don't like is the reality part of it, where someone gets knocked out and the other people are crying and being like, oh my God, I can't believe they're gone. They're gonna, like, I'm gonna miss you, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you're here to win $4.5 million. Like, I know it's not literally life or death, but for most people, that's life-changing money. Yeah, that whole thing, I just don't care about that. But it's cool seeing the people play the games. And one of the really interesting things to me is, just like the show, you see these factions form and these groups form, these kind of betrayals throughout. You see people who are kind of more skilled, more of a threat get grouped up on. So there's the whole social dynamic to it. It's pretty fascinating to watch how similar it is to the show. And you would think in an environment like that, like, there wouldn't be people that you would hate, because you don't want to be the person hated when you're all competing for money like that. It's something that, in theory, would be a ruthless competition. But there are people that I'm like, man, how did this reality show end up with villains? So there's definitely people to root for and root against, which is nice. I wasn't particularly sad when everybody left, because it's just a game show. Like, they'll go back to their normal life and move on. But yeah, they do the thing where they're all crying and like, oh my God, and I love you and all this crap. And I'm like, whatever. And it's interesting because they're only there for a month, which I guess maybe if you're locked in a room with people for a month, you do get close, and this is a pretty high stress situation. I don't know. I mean, you're there to win, right? I could see it if maybe off camera, when you're down to the last 3 or 4 or whatever, you've agreed to split the money, so you're just playing to win. And then you are just kind of friends competing because you've all got your part of the pie. I'm not even sure they're allowed to do that. I'm just saying, like, hypothetically. So the reality components were meh. The game stuff was good. And there's definitely stuff to enjoy, and there's pretty funny moments. I would definitely recommend it, even if you're not super into reality TV, which I am not. If you like the show, I think you'll probably like this version of it. I think they did what they could, as well as they could, since they can't kill people and make it complete savagery. And to me, this is the type of show that I think they can probably go on for like 15 seasons. Because you can always keep the core games if you want to, or add new games in, or put twists on games. And you don't really even have to stick to all of it. Now that they've done the one season where they really stuck to it, they can just slowly change it over time if they want to. That way people can't just prepare for it. And as long as you're playing childhood games, which is the idea, I think people will enjoy it. You know, you keep the environment the same, the clothes, they had the big piggy bank hanging above the arena. So it's a fun thing. It's interesting to see. One of the most interesting parts of the psychology, I kind of mentioned the grouping and the betrayals and stuff, which I thought was interesting. And I'm not going to say specifically what happens, but there's multiple times where there's a situation where decisions need to be made, and the people in the show realize that if they don't make the decision, they're done. And there's multiple times that this comes up and people just don't make decisions. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, even if you get stuck in a game that you don't want to play, or if it's skewed against you, that's better than 0%. And it's not actually life or death. So you'd think people would be more willing to compromise and just kind of suck it up. Like, you're all there to win, presumably. And they had a pretty interesting range of people too. They had people from all over. They had an Australian chick on there, a British chick. They had people from other countries. A lot of it was Americans. And this is something that I'm mentioning last because I really don't give a shit about it. But I'm just going to go ahead and mention it for the people who are like hypersensitive to the culture war shit. Is you can tell it's a Netflix thing where it seems like they had a checklist of demographics they wanted to hit, you know, based on race. There's a lot of gay people. So I'm not going to say any more than that because it really wasn't something that I cared about. But it is one of those things that you notice, like, wow, there's a lot of this group here if they were actually picked randomly from the US. Again, I don't give a shit, but I figured I'd go ahead and mention it for people who are really bothered by that type of thing. So yeah, I think it's worth giving it a shot. It's 10 episodes. It just finished up last night on December 6th. If you've got a few hours to kill, or if you're into reading, I put it on in the background and I just read my light novels and shit that I read, manga, whatever. So yeah, I was pretty surprised by the winner. I won't say anything more than that. I guess if you watched it, let me know what you think. Was there someone you were really rooting for or against? There was a couple people that when they got knocked off, I was like, man, thank God. But I'll leave it there. Like I said, let me know what you think. Give it a shot. If you weren't going to give it a shot and you did because I told you to, let me know. Maybe I'm giving bad recommendations. All right, well, if you're still here, like and subscribe and all that shit. See ya. Thanks.